In this prison, the living condition is so bad that prisoners' human rights is a wish that can never come to pass within its walls.
They have no any human rights, and they tortured people cruelly.
And in the case of this other prison, things are so brutal that prisoners have named it Hell on Earth. This might sound like an exaggeration, but even prisoners pray for death when locked up in some of these jails.
You simply won't make it.
You cannot see any sunsets. You cannot see any sunrises.
So, we have compiled a list of prisons where torment, pain, and even psychological torture are a few of the dishes served in these cells, and inevitable death is the final feast prisoners get. And in the first prison on this list, things are beyond hellish for these prisoners. Guantanamo Bay. When one of the most powerful governments in the world sets up a prison to crack down on terrorism, you know that inmates are in there for a wild ride under the harshest possible conditions. These conditions are so severe that some inmates die as they are unable to bear the harsh conditions they are subjected to. After the September 11th attacks, President George Bush, as part of his War on Terror, set up the Guantanamo Bay detention camp to contain terrorists, especially those with connections to the tragic 9/11 attacks. Reports shared by a non-profit organization, the Center for Constitutional Rights, revealed shocking details about the torture and inhumane living conditions inmates faced here. These reports showed that inmates were deprived of sleep, subjected to 20-hour interrogations and solitary confinement. These brutal conditions has caused the death of many inmates at this facility, with the prison authorities officially reporting the cause of death as suicide. However, past inmates at this facility dispute the cause of these deaths. Former inmate Murat Kurnaz, in his book, suggested that some men were actually killed, possibly beaten to death or even strangled. Well, if you think Guantanamo prison is hell on earth, then you haven't heard of this next prison. It is called Bang Kwang. This prison is known by many as one of the harshest prisons in the world. With a reputation like this, it's no surprise that the living conditions here have caused many prisoners to either lose their life or their sanity. The Bang Kwang Central Prison is one prison where you would not last very long. This prison is reserved for inmates serving long sentences and those on death row. The conditions here are deplorable, with inmates having access to limited resources due to the overcrowding situation. Here, in this living hell, inmates are forced to wear leg shackles all day for their first 6 months. For those on death row, these shackles never come off till their execution. New reports further reveal that this barbaric practice was stopped in 2013. Despite cancelling the leg shackles practice, a former inmate, Jonathan Wheeler, shared that the living conditions for prisoners here remain very poor. He revealed that he shared a small cell with 17 others. He noted that the facility was rife with cockroaches, bugs, drugs, violence, and limited access to food, clean water, and limited access to medical treatment. Solitary confinement at this facility is a different nightmare of its own. Another inmate exposed the guards at this facility for being corrupt. He added that these guards go as far as framing inmates who fail to give in to their extortion. There's, however, a little hope. Inmates have come forward to reveal that life at Bang Kwang is a little bearable if a prisoner has money to give guards. But if you think you can survive at Guantanamo by bribing the guards, what then will you do in this next prison controlled totally by the inmates themselves? San Pedro Prison. Despite this prison housing close to 3,000 inmates after being originally designed for about 500, the severe overcrowding concern is the least of the problems for inmates here. This prison is run totally by the prisoners, with guards posted at this facility having no control over the activities going on inside. One guard remarked,
"There are 20 of us and 2,000 of them. 20 police officers for more than 2,000 prisoners. We're powerless. We can't do anything."
With the guards here powerless, activities inside this prison is overseen by leaders who are chosen amongst the inmates and are notorious for using force, torture, and extortion as means for executing their orders. In this prison, violence, rape, drug abuse, and limited access to medical facilities are a common theme. Due to this, inmates unable to adjust to these harsh conditions are left to die, with official reports classifying them simply as missing. Sex offenders in this prison face even worse conditions, with those not killed straight away forced to continue their lives at the very bottom of this prison society. Think you could handle a prison run by inmates? Well, wait until you hear about this next facility, totally under the strict control of North Korea. Kachon Internment Camp. Also known as Camp 14, this North Korea prison set up in 1959 isn't your typical prison. It's a labor camp for alleged political prisoners, and even their families are not spared, kids included. So if one family member gets in trouble, the whole clan ends up there too. Once sent here, inmates know it is for life, and they are subjected to hard manual labor. Just try to picture 15,000 people crammed in an overcrowded place, working away in coal mines, agriculture, or factories, and making everything from textiles to ceramics. Thus, from Shin Dong-hyuk, the only prisoner recorded to have successfully escaped this facility, we know that inmates in here are tortured. In his published book, he revealed that he was burned and tortured and had his finger mangled from a guard pulling out his fingernail. Marks on his body also revealed several forms of torture he was subjected to. In one of his various speeches, where he described his life at this camp and subsequent escape, he remarked that there's a word, animal, yet even animals on the camps lived a better life than we did. The guards who owned the dogs and cats in the camp fed them better than we were fed. If you think that you can survive North Korea's prison camp, do you think you can survive Russia's? Black Dolphin. Imagine the treatment of inmates in a facility where they are not even regarded as humans.
To call them people, it makes your tongue bend backwards, just to say it. I have never felt any sympathy for them.
Russia's Black Dolphin is that prison where inmates are sentenced to life, but it's just death in disguise. Officially known as the Federal Penitentiary Service of Russian Orenburg Oblast, this facility houses the absolute worst criminals, from serial killers to pedophiles to cannibals. Life for inmates here is just pure horror. Reports tell of inmates being tortured, including being electrocuted in their testicles. The torture is so brutal, it leaves prisoners with burst veins and battered legs. They are also under watch 24/7 by the guards at this facility. The psychological torture that inmates here face is also severe, as they are denied any form of human contact and even blindfolded when being transported from cell to cell inside the prison. Due to the nature of the crimes committed by prisoners at this facility, their only way out is death. Next, we go all the way to Brazil, where this prison is the stuff of nightmares. It's called the Alcoaz prison. While also facing other issues like overcrowding and a lack of adequate medical facilities, the regular occurrence of violence is the main reason why this Brazil prison, located in the crime-ridden city of Natal, is feared. This prison is deadly because it has long been a battleground for rival drug cartels due to many of its inmates being gang members. Inside these walls, no one is safe from the ongoing gang war. In 2017, a riot broke out, resulting in the death of over 20 prisoners. Prisoners here have also voiced complaints that they do not have regular access to legal assistance and medical care. Some relatives have shared that inmates with knife or gunshot wounds from various riots rarely receive proper treatment. If you think that you can survive the physical violence here, check out this next prison, where prisoners actually beg for death. ADX, Florence. Officially known as the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility, this prison was created due to the state needing a specific facility to house inmates considered too dangerous for other maximum security prisons. Dubbed Supermax, this facility is a reflection of the extreme conditions inmates here are forced to live under. The living conditions here are designed to affect the inmate's mental state. Prisoners here are required to spend 23 hours a day in solitary confinement in their 7 by 12-foot concrete cells. The cell windows at this facility are tiny, and prisoners are also expected to get their food in a little hole in their doors. During the 1-hour period where prisoners are allowed recreation, they are in restraints, and their 1-hour break is usually in an outdoor small cage. All these harsh conditions eventually take its toll on the mental health of inmates here. Little wonder why some inmates at this facility commit suicide, a way for them to end the psychological torture. A former warden at this facility described it as a clean version of hell. Travis Dusenbury, a former inmate who spent almost 10 years at this facility, revealed that, unlike other prisons, inmates in this facility are completely shut off from the world. As the saying goes, freedom of speech should be respected, but freedom after speech is exactly not guaranteed. And in this next prison, speaking against the Iranian government is a sure ticket to the hellish world in there. It's the Evin prison. This facility is notorious for holding political prisoners. The authorities here use torture, threats of torture, deception, humiliation, and multiple daily interrogations lasting up to 5 or 6 hours. They also deny inmates of medical care and family visits. Anushe Ashuri, a former inmate at this prison, revealed that he had to deal with enormous rodents, cockroaches, bed bugs, overcrowding, and bad food while he was held here. Another inmate also revealed that the inmates at this prison were plagued with a lot of infections because the majority of these pillows and blankets were dirty and plagued with insects. In addition to the hardship from the authorities, violence and riots amongst inmates here have proven to be fatal. In 2022, there was a fire incident as a result of riots between prisoners at the facility, and it caused the death of 8 inmates. Islands are cool, but this next island is one place prisoners really avoid: Rikers Island. Back again in the United States, we have Rikers Island, a prison so deadly it has the reputation of being more dangerous than the roughest streets in the city. Despite battling with problems such as overcrowding, crumbling infrastructure, staffing shortage, this facility has a reputation for violence, physical abuse, mental abuse, and neglect of its inmates. This has attracted press and judicial scrutiny and has resulted in numerous rulings against the New York City government. Even the guards at this facility are not left out, as convicts have repeatedly assaulted uniformed officers and other civilian workers. A former inmate at this facility revealed that the situation at Rikers was designed just to dehumanize people as much as possible and break down their psyche. Since 2022, there have been over 30 recorded deaths in this facility, with the majority of them occurring as a result of limited medical access and straight-up suicide. In this next prison, the guards who are meant to protect prisoners can't even save them from the armed inmates there. In Bogota, Colombia, we have La Modelo. The La Modelo prison is feared by many due to its brutal conditions and terrifying atmosphere. This facility is seriously overcrowded. We all know what happens when you stuff too many things in one place. It gets nasty. Fights break out, tempers flare, and before you know it, you've got a full-blown riot on your hands. Now imagine the majority of persons here belonging to opposing groups. In this prison, far-right paramilitary groups and far-left guerrilla factions, who have control over various sections in this facility, are constantly at each other's throats, leading to various gang violence incidents and even deaths at this facility. Since the inmates are armed, riots are common. The lack of medical care and inadequate food and water also make La Modelo a dangerous place to be. No one is coming to save you at this facility, as the guards cannot effectively control the inmates. The inmates here are left to fend for themselves in this lawless environment. Now think of a prison where inmates die, but instead of being buried, they are eaten by other inmates. That's the Gitarama prison. Now called the Muhanga Correctional Center in Rwanda, this facility is a nightmare for all due to the severe level of overcrowding. Here, the facility meant for just 600 inmates houses 7,000. The conditions here are just shocking. Prisoners here die from preventable diseases due to the sheer lack of resources. In fact, it was at one point reported that the living conditions of inmates at this facility is so severe that some inmates had to resort to feeding on the bodies of dead inmates in order to survive. While these allegations of cannibalism have been debunked, living conditions at this facility continue to be severe. The floors here are reported to be so overcrowded that inmates have to sleep standing up. Many prisoners living at this facility have open wounds and infections, as there is little to no medical care available. The brutality of life in Gitarama makes it one of the deadliest places on earth. In this next prison, if the prison itself doesn't kill inmates, the guards are likely to kill them. It's the Georgia Guldani prison. Whenever this Georgia's prison's name comes up, it is remembered for its extreme human rights abuses, thanks to some leaked videos in 2012 that exposed the torture and sexual abuse of prisoners by guards in this facility. It ignited widespread outrage and protests in Georgia. Former prisoners at this facility have some scary stories about their stay in Guldani prison. One former prisoner shared that they beat him, insulted him, drowned him in a bucket of water, and threatened him with rape. Another prisoner revealed that they tore off his fingernails, damaged his skull, and broke his leg bones, ribs, nose, and teeth. Other inmates spoke about being hit on the head with the butt of a gun, having their wrists broken by guards' boots, and being forced to give evidence under the influence of sleeping pills. The conditions inmates are subjected to at this prison grows worse, with overcrowded cells, poor ventilation, inadequate sanitation, and limited access to clean water and nutritious food being the order of the day. You know that when a prison is dubbed the period of barbarity and the hell of Diyarbakir, it is literally a living coffin. It is known as Diyarbakir Prison. Built in 1980, this prison has a reputation of brutal treatment of inmates due to the extreme torture inflicted on prisoners. This prison facility, designed for 700 inmates, houses significantly more. However, overcrowding is just the least of the problems faced by prisoners here. Inmates here recounted being subjected to various forms of torture, ranging from being stripped naked, blindfolded, hosed with water, and relentless intimidation. Women inmates here, although kept in a separate ward, were also subjected to the same horrific torture. Between 1981 and 1984, for example, it was recorded that 34 inmates lost their lives. Can you survive torture? What about being a victim of gang violence? In this next prison, you have to stay wary of gangs, both inside and outside the prison. Cereso number 3, State Prison. The Cerezo No. 3 State Prison, located in Mexico, is notorious for its brutal conditions and extreme violence. The prison is also overcrowded, resulting in a serious lack of basic necessities. Inmates face inadequate food, poor sanitation, and minimal access to medical care. This facility is also known to house many of Mexico's gang leaders. Due to this, violence is rampant, as gangs hold significant power within the prison walls. Extortion, assaults, and murders are common, and those not affiliated with a gang are at constant risk. Inmates here are wary of not only what's happening within their walls, but also what may come for them from the outside walls. After all, it was recorded that a gang stormed the prison facility in January 2023, wreaking havoc at the facility and causing the death of 19 inmates. The guards here, who are often corrupt and poorly paid, do little to maintain order and sometimes even participate in the violence. It's a brutal, lawless environment where survival is a daily struggle. Back again in the cold regime of Russia, we have the Petak Island Prison. Often called the Alcatraz of Russia, the Petak Island Prison is designed to hold dangerous prisoners in Russia. Like the US Alcatraz prison, this facility is also surrounded by a large body of water, signifying to inmates here that escape is a wish that can never come true. The inhumane regime in Petak Island Prison is said to crush even the toughest inmates, with one prison psychologist at this facility commenting that the place destroys people. Each prisoner is kept in a very small two-man cell for 22.5 hours a day, every day, and for the remaining 1.5 hours, they are allowed in a small cage outside. Inmates at this facility are allowed very minimal contact with the outside world, with inmates only allowed 2 visits a year for their first 10-year sentence. Inmates who die at this facility have their bodies taken to a small graveyard nearby and buried in the presence of 1 or 2 of the guards. No prisoners can attend. Prisoners who misbehave are sent to punishment cells to be locked in a small, dark room with only a metal bucket and a fold-down bed for 15 days. No books are allowed. In the daytime, the bed is stowed and they must stand or sit on a tiny wooden perch a few inches wide. In Egypt, while tourists talk of the pyramids and take pictures of the wonder, prisoners talk about this next prison with fear in their hearts and hope to never be locked up in there. It's the Scorpion Prison. Officially known as the Tora Prison 992 Maximum Security, the Scorpion Prison is a supermax prison in Helwan, Egypt, used for political prisoners and opponents of the Egyptian government. The living conditions of inmates in this place are reported to be extremely harsh. Inmates here reveal that they are denied access to basic necessities like soap, shampoo, toothbrushes, and even books or writing materials. This lack of proper hygiene has led to health issues. No beds are available. Instead, inmates sleep on concrete floors, using blankets or cardboards to cushion themselves. There is also a lack of adequate medical care, since guards often take away prescriptions sent by families and prevent outside treatments from being carried out. At one point in time, some inmates went on hunger strikes to protest their terrible living conditions, but were subjected to violence and were forced to eat. Physical abuse happens frequently here. For instance, prisoners are beaten up regularly and humiliated as well. The Scorpion Prison's environment is designed to be dehumanizing, greatly messing with the physical and mental well-being of its inmates. It might be an interesting thing to look out your window and see the ocean, but for prisoners in this next jail, their world is very far from being interesting. It's the Chalapalca Prison. Peru's Chalapalca Prison is one of the most feared prison facilities in the country. Located 4,600 feet above sea level in the Andes Mountains, prisoners here are forced to endure freezing temperatures year-round. The overcrowded cells lack basic medical facilities, making illnesses a serious threat. With the few resources available, the little food and water available are frequently polluted and not enough for proper nutrition. Prisoners here face a lot of mistreatment from guards and are often beaten and even tortured. Numerous human rights organizations have called for the prison's closure. They talked about the gross violations of basic human rights. Despite these appeals, the facility remains operational. None of the inmates have access to technology and rarely receive visits due to the prison's remote location. Many of Peru's most dangerous prisoners are housed here, and most have to be held in solitary confinement to stop them from planning riots. I'm beginning to think Russia is the home of prisons that instantly sends prisoners to their graves. Again, in Russia, we move to the deadly Vladimir Central Prison. This Russian jail, built in 1783, is well known for its brutal conditions. Here, just think of crowded, dark places where detainees endure frigid temperatures because of unreliable heating. Meals here include thin soup and a slice of bread, and when prisoners are served with potatoes, it's a big treat. Various human rights groups report that the treatment of inmates at this facility is so psychologically destructive that it is comparable to the conditions of the Soviet Gulag. Endless interrogations and beatings to get confessions are common practices practices here. The guards at this facility are described by former inmates to be strict and brutal as they impose severe punishments for even small violations. A former inmate, recounting his experience at this facility, said that the guards would frequently bring out the prisoners from cells with the sole aim of beating them. Inmates who tried to complain to the authorities about these inhumane treatments were singled out for worse punishment. Prisoners are always elated to be out of jail, but what happens when the conditions they faced inside don't kill them while they're in, but instead kill them as soon as they step out? This is exactly what happens at Drapchi Prison. Located in Tibet, this facility is infamously popular for its harsh treatment of political detainees and serious violations of human rights, and solitary confinement are all reported as common conditions. Surprisingly, many prisoners at this facility are monks or nuns imprisoned for peaceful protests, yet they face some of the most brutal treatments imaginable. The psychological and physical torture measures used are intended to crush the spirit of the inmates here. Many prisoners at this facility have died under suspicious circumstances, and the lack of adequate medical care only makes the situation worse. Even prisoners released from this facility are not spared from the hardship they suffered while in there. Some of them mysteriously die after being released from the prison as a result of the ill treatment they were subjected to. If you found this list of crazy prisons fascinating, click on any of the cards on your screen to check out more jaw-dropping stories.